All right, well, welcome back. And a little bit time that we have left here in Chapter 14, we want to really cover two basic subjects. And the first one's long-term notes payable. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about troubled debt restructuring. But let's just talk about notes payable first. And, one of the big issues with notes payable is that normally they're issued at a discount where the stated interest rate is at or below the effective interest rate. So it's going to be a discount. But we have a couple issues here. The question is, how much is the discount on notes payable? And when the note is only issued for cash, it's a pretty straightforward problem, just like a bonds payable. So the difference between the amount of cash received and the face value of the note is the discount, and the interest rate is the rate that equates the cash received with the face amount of the note. So this is no different than with a bond payable that we've been doing. And it's not a hard type of problem. And so let me just do a quick one here with exercise 1421, a long-term note payable. So on January 1st, 2013, issued a 2-year note due December 31st, 2014. So 2013, 2014, it's a 2-year note with a face value of $10,000, but the amount of cash received was $7,694.68 in exchange. And so what we really need to figure out here is what is the interest rate on this note? How do we determine the interest rate? And so in this case, right, and this is exercise 21, n equals 2. Remember, when you look at this, it's a 2-year note with a face value of 10,000, but there's no stated rate. So the payment is 0. The future value, the amount that we have to pay back at the end, is minus 10,000. And the present value, how much received today, is 7,694.68. And right in this one, we use the tables. And so we're going to solve for the interest rate per year, or interest rate per period. And this, again, was using the tables, but we get 14, and that's 14%. So that's our interest rate. So right, in this case, right, we had to solve for the effective interest rate. Remember, the stated rate is 0. And so our journal entry on January 1st, 2013 is cash, 7,694.68, and we have a discount on notes payable, and that discount is the difference between the face value and the present value, 2,305.32, and obviously the note payable goes on the books at face value $10,000. And right, when we do interest recognition, right, on December 31st, we have to recognize interest, even though, right, we're not going to pay out any cash, and so we're going to debit interest expense. Remember, interest expense is always effective rate times carrying value, and so the 7,694.68 times the 14% gives me 1,077.26. And right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to amortize from the discount on note payable, and that's 1,077.26. And that's obviously going to change the carrying value of the note. And so December 31st, 2014, right, we have to pay back the note, plus we have to recognize interest for that second year, right? I'm going to, and let's just do the interest first. We can do interest expense, and that would be 1,228.06. And remember, what that's going to represent is the carrying value, and the carrying value for that second year is the 7,694 68 plus, right, the amortization that we did the previous period, 1,077.26, right? We could have also done this by taking 10,000 minus the unamortized discount. You can do it either way here. $87.71, I think I did my math there correctly, $87.71.94 times the effective rate of 14%, and that should give us a 1,228.06. And right, we would credit the discount on notes payable. And once I've done that, right, when we think about that, that discount had a debit balance of 2305. It was reduced by 1,077. It was reduced by 1,228. It's now 0, and so, right, the last journal entry is to get rid of the note payable, $10,000 cash to pay back the note. All right, so that's a straightforward case of the note payable issued for cash. The other situations that we have to deal with here is where notes are either issued for cash and some right or privilege, or a non-cash transaction. And so when a note payable is issued for a right or a privilege, maybe it's a right such as you get exclusive, we're providing the exclusive distribution rights, or the right to first purchase any research and development that comes out of a project. So the difference between the present value of the payable and the amount of the cash received should be regarded as a discount on the note. But normally what happens here is you're going to get the full face value of the note, and then credit goes to unearned income. So we're really looking at the difference between the cash received and the fair value of the note. And that difference is the value of the right or privilege, and that's initially unearned income because we're providing that to somebody, and as time goes by, they're going to earn that right or privilege that we're providing. That's going to be income to us. The other situation is a non-cash transaction, and again, the present value of the debt is measured by the fair value of the property, goods, or services changing hands, or by an amount that reasonably approximates the market value of the note. The difference between the fair value and the face value is the discount. So let's take another look at, let's look at exercise 22 here. And when we look at this, they tell us that SPAF borrows $75,000 by issuing a 4-year non-interest-bearing note, so the stated rate is 0, to a customer on January 1st, 2013. In addition, agrees to sell inventory to the customer at a reduced price over a 5-year period. The incremental borrowing rate that SPAF normally would have to pay is 12%. The customer agrees to purchase an equal amount of inventory each year over the 5-year period, so that the straight line method of revenue recognition is appropriate. So we're going to take that privilege, the value of that privilege up front, and we're going to just spread it out over 5 periods. And so when we do this, right, and we look at this problem, so what we want to do is we want to think about what's the value of the note. And when we do this, right, what we're thinking about here is, this is exercise 22, and we want to think about what the value of the note is. So N equals 4, because it's a 4-year note. And again, we're trying to figure out the present value. So the interest rate per year is the effective rate, and that's 12%, right? That's what's normally borrowed at. The payment equals 0, and right, the future value is going to be minus $75,000. And what we're going to solve for is the present value in this case, and the present value is going to be $47,000 663. Doing a little bit of rounding there. 47,663. And right, the difference between that future value and the present value is our discount. But remember, it says here they borrowed $75,000. So when we do the journal entry on January 1st, 2013, cash, $75,000. So we were given $75,000. We have a note payable, $75,000. But we gave them something in return, right? And so the real discount here on note payable is the difference between the $75,000 and $47,663, and that'd be $27,337. And what we're going to do is unearned income, right? Because what's happening here is we're going to sell the inventory at lower than normal prices. So it's like the customer has prepaid by giving us the money up front. And we're going to take that and we'll amortize that over the life of the note. So $27,337. And that's simply the difference between the fair value of the amount actually received in cash and the amount of the discounted note payable, the present value. And so what we have here is next period on December 31st, right? We have some interest expense. And again, it's always the carrying value of the note times the effective rate. The effective rate is 12%. The carrying value is 47,663, and we get 5720, and that's going to come from the discount on note payable, 5720. In addition, right, the customer bought some of the inventory, and so unearned income, we're going to amortize that over 5 periods. So that's the 27,337 divided by 5, and that's going to give me 54, and I'll just round it. Oops. 5467. That's just a little bit of rounding there. And right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to credit sales revenue. 5467. And I'm doing a little bit of rounding there. All right. So that takes care of the problem, right, when we issue a note for a right or privilege. In the next problem, right, exercise 23, we issue a note for an asset. And again, we purchased an asset from Shaw Corporation on January 1st. Shaw accepted a 3-year non-interest-bearing note of $18,000 in exchange for the asset. Neither the fair value of the asset nor that of the note is available. REB's incremental borrowing rate is 12%. And so what would we do there? Well, again, what we have to do is take the present value of the note at 12%. And if we take $18,000, 3 years, n equals 3, effective interest rate of 12%, the payment is 0, and then the future value is -18, you'll end up with a present value of $12,812, and that should be the value of the asset. All right, so I think this is a lot like what we've been doing with bonds payable. I think if we can do the time value of money, we should be in pretty good shape. All right, so that kind of wraps up notes payable, and I'm going to stop here, and then we'll talk about the modification of terms.